The bombers were repositioning on schedule. The airspace over the base was covered. The air defense crews were awake and working through the daylight hours. Tracking. Ready. From inside the Russian system, everything about that day would have read as competence. A major strike package being assembled, the heavy aircraft moving into place, the machinery of a large attack on Ukraine turning over exactly the way it is supposed to. Everything was proceeding according to plan, which is precisely the problem, because the plan itself had become the warning. The same buildup that was meant to deliver a blow was, that day, the thing that painted a target on Engels. This is not a story about one airfield catching fire. It is a story about a ritual, the slow, visible choreography that comes before Russia's big missile nights, and about what happens when the enemy learns to read the choreography and act on it first. Why does moving a bomber toward the border tell you an attack is coming? And what does it mean when the base that launches the strike is no longer safe from the country it is about to hit? Zoom in on the airfield first. Engels, a strategic bomber base deep inside Russia, one of the homes of the long-range aviation that carries cruise missiles, the Tu-95s, and the heavier machines built to stand off far from Ukraine and rain missiles from safe distance. Yesterday, the reporting says, it was hit. There is video, fire on the territory, at least 2 or 3 separate points where a blaze took hold, the signatures of ground detonations. During the daytime, the air defense was active over the base, which tells you 2 things at once. 1. The Russians knew they were a target. 2. Knowing did not save them from taking hits. The defenses were up, and something still got through and burned on the ground. Now pull all the way back, because the interesting part is not the fire, it is the timing. Before a massive airstrike on Ukraine, Russia does something it cannot hide. It moves its bombers. The reporting here is that aircraft were sent to Engels from Ukrainka airfield, and Ukrainka is not next door. It sits on the far eastern edge of Russia, thousands of kilometers away. Bombers do not make that journey for training. They make it to shorten the reach to their launch boxes before a coordinated attack. So when the heavy aircraft start flowing westward and clustering closer to the front, that flow is itself a message, written in jet fuel, that says a big night is being loaded. Russia has to make that move to strike, and making it is the tell. Here is the trap inside their own doctrine. The bombers are most valuable and most vulnerable at exactly the moment they concentrate. Spread across distant bases, they are hard to find and harder to hit all at once. Gathered at a forward base to prepare a strike, they become what every target planner dreams of: high value, low mobility, and predictable. The very act of preparing the attack pulls the aircraft into the one posture where they can be caught on the ground. That is why a base like Engels draws fire in the hours before a strike wave. The buildup that looks like strength is also the window of maximum exposure. It is hard to say from the outside exactly what burned. The satellite imagery that settles these questions comes later, and until it does, honesty is the only credible posture. There were fires. There were multiple points of ignition. There was active air defense that confirms the base knew it was a target. Whether that means aircraft, fuel, infrastructure, or all 3 is not yet certain. But the pattern is consistent enough to draw the important conclusion, which is not about tonnage. It is about the fact that the strike ritual now runs in both directions. Russia prepares to hit Ukraine, and in preparing, invites a hit of its own. Zoom back in, one more time, to what those bombers are for, because this is where the abstraction ends. The aircraft moving toward Engels exist to launch cruise missiles at Ukrainian cities. That is their job. And on the receiving end, the same signals are being read. Ukraine has learned that when the heavy aviation shifts west, the sirens are coming. It is a grim kind of literacy. The movement of an aircraft 2,000 kilometers away becomes, for a family in Kyiv, a reason to check the shelter, to keep the phone charged, to sleep in the hallway, away from the windows. The bomber and the basement are connected by a thread that both sides can now see. So let me land this not on the airfield, but on that hallway. Picture it. The same night the bombers are clustering at Engels. In an apartment far to the west, a mother is moving a mattress into the corridor, the one interior wall with no glass, because she has learned the rhythm too. She does not have satellite imagery. She has the pattern, and a bad feeling, and the memory of the last time the aviation moved. Whether the strike on Engels stopped a single missile that night, no one can prove. But somewhere between a burning bomber base and a child asleep in a hallway is the entire logic of hitting these airfields at all. Every aircraft caught on the ground is a salvo that never reaches that corridor. That is what the fire at Engels is actually about. Not steel, the nights it might buy for people who never see it. The lesson underneath is almost cold in its clarity. In this war, preparation is exposure. The forces you gather to strike are the forces you make findable, and a strike ritual that cannot be hidden is a countdown your enemy gets to read. The mechanism is not clever. It is just consistent. Concentrate to attack, and you concentrate to be attacked. The side that understands that pays for dispersal. The side that does not keeps clustering its most valuable aircraft in the open at the exact hour they can least afford it. Which opens the real question, and it cuts against both armies. Does Russia keep running the ritual, massing bombers forward for the big nights, and accepting that each buildup is an invitation? Or does it change how it strikes, spreading and disguising the preparation, at the cost of the coordinated mass that makes those strike waves so devastating in the first place? Concentration buys punch. Dispersal buys survival. You cannot maximize both, and this war keeps forcing the choice. So tell me what you see coming. Do the big, choreographed missile nights survive in a world where the buildup itself gives the game away? Or does Russia have to trade that mass for stealth? Put it in the comments. I read them, and this one is genuinely unsettled. If you want the war explained the way it actually connects, the bomber to the basement, the build-up to the siren, then like this video, share it with someone who thinks the front line is the only place the war is fought, and subscribe so the next one finds you. Stay safe tonight, and may your sky stay quiet.